Okay, now it's time to import these graphics into our software. So we'll go to Program, and in Programming we have Graphics Management. This window will always display all the maps that have been imported and that are available. Please note that their order cannot be changed, so it's important to import them in an order that makes sense to you, so it's a lot easier to find the information you want that way. So we will import our main page, and we will import our subsection. Here we go. So we can check what they look like. So this is the first one. So as you can see, it fits nicely on the screen, and there's room here for buttons. Now you have the option here to save any changes or exit without saving. Please note that there is no undo button on PCnet. So if you make any mistakes while editing these maps, you will not be able to undo that. So the only option you have is to exit without saving your changes and then get back in. So yeah, so we're getting out. We have our maps already imported. Now it's time to configure our detectors. So do not be tempted to add new detectors through the graphics management software. So you have an option here to add a symbol. So like a detector, for example. Now, the problem with that is that if you look at the conditions that are available to you that we might need to, that we want to configure to for every detector, you have quite a wide range here. But if you add a symbol directly onto a page or a graphics, you will only configure the fire alarm status. So if that device goes into alarm, it'll flash red, but you will not be able to configure isolation or fault or maintenance or pre-alarm. So it's important to always import new devices onto maps through this screen. So this is the program screen. The majority of mistakes I see comes from not following this particular procedure, right? So pay attention. Now the first thing to do is to find the node and loop that we want to work on. So let's assume that we're working on node 1, loop 2. And now we can start to configure devices on this loop. So we will use the wizard software, which is accessible through this button. Next. So all we have to do is to deselect the first input and select all the inputs that we want to import to a specific map. In this case, it would be a subsection of the floor that we were working on before. So let's say we want to import a handful of devices. Next. It's very important at this stage to tick this option. This will keep consistency across all the indications in the following procedure. That is, we ensure that all the conditions, fire alarm, pre-alarm, isolation, etc., are all the same. They're all imported onto the same map. They're all associated with the same symbol. Always ensure that your event type and the program match. So from time to time this is not selected properly, and there's a lot of confusion. Alarm template must also match program, so in this case make sure it's fire. The fire alarm condition, and only the fire alarm condition, has a reset condition. Fire reset. Graphic, this is the page that we want to import these devices on. So subsection 1. We can select what symbol we're working with. So let's just say they're all smoke detectors. Here we have an option to make the detectors do a bit more. So if we want the detector just to flash red or blue or yellow according to what's happening in the field, we just select none. But if we want, for example, to be able to double click on the device and isolate this device or disable it, we will do that. We will use this device disablement. There's also device disablement and fire control, which is a much more involved option. It will give you the option also to put the whole system into alarm and evacuate the building. It's probably not an option that you want to give to the end user, simply because there's a potential of evacuating the whole building if the person operating the graphics is not too skilled. So device disablement is a good option. Okay, so this is what this screen should look like. Move on to next. Security alarm is not necessarily something we would use. Pre-alarm, yes it is. So let's make sure that the event type is pre-alarm, the alarm template is pre-alarm, the graphic is the one we want, the symbol is still the one we want. Let's repeat. The reset template does not apply to any condition but the alarm one. So this is why we don't have anything on this field. Next, general input we will not use. Isolation, also known as device disabled, needs to look like this. Event type device disabled, alarm template disabled. Graphic and symbol will not change because we tick this option. Test mode, same. Let's make sure that we match these scripts to the condition. Fault. Maintenance. And finish. So now the system is plotting devices with the discussed conditions, fault, fire alarm, isolation, etc., onto that map. So as you can see here on the screen, also these addresses change in appearance. This symbol has been added, meaning a map has been assigned to this input. Now you will not see any description for these addresses, and you will not see one until you plug into your network, and these devices come up with a condition like this. This thing is probably to isolate them through the graphics and de-isolate them, and then these names will be populated. If you do not want to receive any information from certain points, all you have to do is to ignore specific points. So now we can have a look at our map. As you can see, we've started to use some symbols. Obviously 66 corresponds to the conditions associated with these, so you notice that 66 is actually a higher number than the 11 inputs configured here. Is because there are 6 conditions assigned. So now we can go to configure symbols, and as you can see, we have our symbols plotted on the top of the page. Now we can move them to where we need to. If we hover over them, we will be able to see what addresses they are assigned to. So the first number, 1, is your node, 2 is your loop, and 15 here in this case is your address. So you will have your as-builds, and you can move them around. Now, if you need different symbols like break glasses and thermals or duct detectors, etc., you will have to do another round of import. or with the wizard, and then you can distribute those as well. So you can select a different symbol in that case. So we'll just move them around just to show what you're doing. This option is also useful. So as you can see now, these are they're not aligned still, but if we use that symbol, as you can see, they just snap along a grid, and we can have them more aligned. So they look a bit tidier maybe. Okay, now as we discussed before, don't be tempted to add detectors through this page, but you can delete them through this page. Right hand click, delete this symbol, or you can configure the symbol if you need to change something. Okay, now the detectors have been added. All we need to do is just to save and exit.